Hey everyone, and thanks for tuning in today. I'm Mandy from the Leadline podcast, and today I am joined by a special guest, Kerri, who is here to talk all about Instagram marketing strategies for equestrian business owners. Kerri, thank you so much for being here. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me, Mandy.
Yeah, I am so excited about this talk. We have been following each other on Instagram for a little bit, and I've been following
Yeah.
you for a while and watching everything that you are doing. And you are equestrian marketing coach on Instagram. So for anyone that's looking to follow you, I'm going to make sure that we drop that username throughout the show today, and I'm going to put that up in our little ticker here on the bottom. So if you are just tuning in, be sure to follow Kerri at Equestrian Marketing Coach on Instagram. And we are going to talk about all things Instagram, what you need to know. She's going to spit out some really great tips today. I'm ready to go. So,
I will do my
Kerri,
best.
let's kick things off. So, I hear a lot from the equestrian and business owner community about Instagram specifically, like, hey, I just don't really understand Instagram, or I don't really have time for Instagram, or, well, I have the time and I have an Instagram account, but I don't know what to post. So, let's start off by talking about the benefits of having an Instagram account for your equestrian business. What are they?
Perfect. That's the perfect place to start because you want to have a reason to do something, right? Because our lives are already so busy. And I'm sure a lot of people think, oh, like another social media platform, like I can barely do what I'm doing right now with my business. So I would say that the importance of Instagram is that next to Facebook, it's the most popular social media platform for the equestrian industry. It's where equestrians are hanging out. So if I'm definitely subscribed to the philosophy of you don't want to be in all places all the time because that's just gonna stress you out. It's gonna overwhelm you. You probably aren't going to do anything really well because you're spread so thin, and it'll just burn you out and you'll hate it. So I always say to my clients, if there are two social platforms to focus on, it's Facebook and Instagram for the equestrian industry. And it's actually interesting because people are actually more engaging on Instagram than they are on Facebook. I don't know whether you found this yourself, but I've certainly found it with my own business is that even though my business, yes, it is, focused on Instagram, but I do offer a lot of other services like email marketing services. My background is actually web design development, but I get the most engagement on Instagram. And it's actually kind of interesting because in preparation for today, I did a little bit of digging for statistics, right? Because I had heard and I wanted to make sure to give the accurate information to your audience that Facebook, or I should say Instagram, is actually outpacing Facebook. So if you were to lean into a social media platform, Instagram is it. Um, they're engaging more on Instagram. They spend more time on Instagram than on Facebook. And this is kind of an interesting stat. It's actually the fourth biggest social platform in terms of users out there for a mobile app. So those are all really good reasons to be on Instagram. And the other thing that I like too is that Instagram has a lot of fun features that you can play with. And so it gives you a lot more flexibility of how you can put your message out there, put your content out there, and engage with your audience. So that's sort of like a Coles Note version of why I really love Instagram. And I think that equestrian businesses particularly should really be embracing it. Hopefully that helps.
Yeah, I think that's great. And I agree with you. I agree that I have found that engagement is very strong on Instagram. And comparing it to Facebook, some days I do feel that sometimes Instagram actually is doing more for me than Facebook. And I'll give a few examples. Some people that are tuning in may have seen some of my posts recently, but I shared that I didn't know when I first launched my podcast if it was worth the time to create an additional Instagram account for the podcast specifically, or if I just wanted to focus on my personal profile and growing that space. And I finally was like, you know what? I'm just going to try and see what happens. Why not? Let's do it. So I added an additional Instagram account for the podcast. It's at the Leadline podcast for anyone tuning in who isn't following yet. And I started that probably around March when the podcast first launched. And it's not crazy. I've got about 560 something followers right now. So it's not like it blew up. It definitely didn't blow up. However, I have made so many new connections through that specific account that I never made through my personal account just by running that podcast profile. And the engagement's been great. The people I have met have been great. And I've actually pulled over a lot of people from Instagram over into my Facebook community as a result, which is really interesting. Got them on Instagram,
Yeah.
and got them over into the community. So it's really interesting how that's worked out.
And
So,
actually, that brings up actually a really good point, because so you have a Facebook group and you also have a Facebook page, right? But I bet that you find that your Facebook group is the one where the conversations are happening and the interactions are happening and the community is building within your group more so than your page. And I think that's why Instagram is, there's a lot of parallels with Instagram, because I find that with myself too, that I have my Facebook business page and I have a Facebook group. And the group is, that's where the conversations are happening. It's not very often that a conversation is happening on my Facebook page. It's just going to happen in the group, right? And I think it's because it's got more of that community spirit. And I feel that Instagram automatically has that community, like it's more community spirit, I feel, on Instagram. So it's interesting. It's been your experience.
yeah, it's definitely interesting to see how all that comes together. So, what are actually, before I go into the next question, I just want to remind people, if you would like to ask us any questions while we're chatting today, you can absolutely ask your questions about Instagram if you would like us to answer them live. So all you have to do is comment on this video and we will see your comment. If you haven't given StreamYard permission to sync to your Facebook account, we'll just see just a generic Facebook username next to your comment. So we may not see who is leaving them, but we will still see the comment over here on StreamYard, which is the platform we're using for the interview today. So feel free to ask questions. Moving into my next question for you, Kerri, what are some of the most common reasons that you have found people are not using Instagram?
I think overwhelm is probably the top one. They're not sure where to start, which is completely understandable. If you're not even really using it for personal use, or maybe you're using it for personal use, but it's more from a consumer perspective, like you're consuming content, it can be overwhelming, knowing where do I even start, what do I do, how do I use it. And I think that for some people, I think they think of Instagram as how it used to be. So it used to be, static images only. It was, people sharing their dinner or their lunch or beach vacations or, stuff like that, right? And that is not Instagram today at all. So I think that misconception might play a little bit into it as well, which can also be a little overwhelming. It's like, well, am I supposed to show, the perfect everything and the perfect life and the perfect this and the perfect that? And that's not the way it is at all. And I think too that they're worried that they have to post every day. And you definitely do not have to post every day in order to have Instagram be a great marketing tool, like another marketing tool for your business.
Yeah. Well, I just noticed recently as I was scrolling back through some really old Instagram posts of my own, Instagram's come a long way since it first launched several years ago. And I went back and I saw some old pictures from 2012. And I always know when they're photos from 2012 because they had these awful filter options that many years ago. They had some terrible filters. So I always know when it's an old picture because it's got that really ugly filter on the image that I posted. So it's definitely come a long way. That said, there's so many different kinds of ways to post on Instagram nowadays. And I know that's definitely part of the overwhelm for some people. They don't understand stories or reels and how all that works. Can you kind of dive into a little bit about those different options that Instagram has today and why people can use them, why they should use them?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you're right. Like there's a lot of, I call them neighborhoods, right? There's a lot of different neighborhoods within Instagram. And it seems like they're regularly coming out with a new neighborhood. So the newest neighborhood, of course, is Reels. But the good news is that you don't need them all. You don't need to use them all. So I just want to say that right off the top. So don't get stressed if you think that you need to be using all the different neighborhoods all the different times. However, having said that, Instagram does want you to use at least a few of the neighborhoods. And what I recommend is try to find at least 3 neighborhoods that you feel comfortable with, that it's easy for you to post, or it's easy for you to come up with content ideas, and just lean into them. And if every now and then you can add another neighborhood, that's great. So what are the neighborhoods, right? That's probably the next question, is what are the neighborhoods? So the first neighborhood is your feed. So that's the wall of where you can see, the posts that you have done in the past. And actually within that, with a feed post, you can do a single image post. Single image posts are actually really good in terms of shareable content. So when you see in somebody's stories, which is another neighborhood, and someone shares a post to their stories, that's usually the single image posts that are getting shared. So it's really great for like shareable content. You can do carousels. Carousels is where you swipe through the different images or videos. That's really great for engagement, because any action that somebody takes, such as even the swipe, is flagged as engagement by Instagram. So I love carousels, and they're great for engagement. Then you have the Reels neighborhood. So that's the newest one. So that's the short form video. They can be 15 seconds, 30 seconds. And they just recently, I don't know if everybody has this yet, but they just recently came out with 60 seconds. And that's that short video content. And of course, they came out with that to compete with TikTok, of course. So that's the newest one. You have stories, which I already mentioned. And stories are when you open up your Instagram app and you see the profile pictures going across the top and you can tap on them. Those are the little 15-second clips. They can be up to 15 seconds when people are posting stories. You have IG Live. So that's when you can do a live video. And those are really great for connecting with your audience. They're scary. I admit that I'm terrified of lives because I'm terrified of video and I'm nervous here too. But they're actually really great to connect with your audience in real time. They're more real, obviously, because they're live. They're great to, like, if you want to answer some FAQs or collaborate with someone, like we're collaborating here, perfect example. The other neighborhood is IGTV. That's the longer form of video. So you see that used quite often. If somebody does a live, then you can save it out to your IGTV. I don't specifically create IGTVs for the sake of creating IGTV, but you can. It's typically longer form video, but I wouldn't really go over 10 minutes, because you have to remember too that people come to Instagram for fast consumption, right? And if it's anything too long, then they get kind of bored and they swipe away. And the other neighborhood that doesn't get used a lot is guides. And think of guides as kind of like collections, right? So you can group together posts under a certain like theme or topic, and not just your posts, but also posts from other accounts. So you could use this, say you are a bricks and mortar store product. You could create a gift guide, right? You could like a Christmas gift guide or a Valentine's gift guide. You could create a guide that is based on tips on a particular topic, whether it's past posts that you've done, or maybe you can mix it up and some of them are your posts and some of them are posts from others in your industry. You can do shout outs to your community, or it's also really good if you have brand ambassadors, then you could sort of feature your brand ambassadors by grouping together their posts where they're promoting your product. And so that's another neighborhood. But like I said, you don't have to use all of them all the time. Just focus on at least 3 and then just kind of rotate between those 3.
Yeah, so that's a lot of neighborhoods. I
It
feel like
is.
for the sake of our viewers, I'm gonna bring in a screen share of your account so we can just kind of point out a couple of the easy ones to look at so that folks who
Mhm.
don't really know which neighborhood that might be can kind of get a visual for what
Yeah, of
that
course.
looks like. So I'm going to bring up my screen here. I'm going to go into this tab and I'm going to pull up your account, Kerri, because you're most familiar with what's on your account currently. So we'll go ahead and get that into the screen here. All right. So we're looking at your account, which is at Equestrian Marketing Coach for anyone interested in following Kerri. So I'm going to scroll through and kind of look at some different sections and you can tell us what's what here, Kerri. But I
Yep,
want to first
definitely.
start with obviously, this is the desktop version. So this is going to look a little bit different than mobile. But why don't you explain to us first, what are these little buttons here at the top of your account and how did you get those?
Yeah, so those are highlights. And so highlights, you create highlights by when you post a story, then you have the option that you can save that story to a highlight. And so what I've done is whenever I create a story, a lot of them are under certain topics, right? So what I want to do is I want to create highlights that sort of give an immediate snapshot of what I'm all about and the type of content that I do. So one of the content types is Insta tips. So if ever I do a tip, not all the time, but if I do a tip in my story or I share a tip post that I did and I share it to my stories, then I'll add it to my Insta tips so that someone can just click on Insta tips and then they can just swipe through the stories that I've shared there. The same thing with the post ideas. You see the one that's got 180 post ideas. And so highlights are really great just to basically showcase the key things that your business is all about. For instance, if you're a riding school, for instance, you might have a highlight which is your school horses. You might have a highlight which is um, the farm, and just kind of shows whenever you've shared something of the paddocks or the outdoor ring or indoor arena. It's basically just a way to give people sort of a quick consumption of what you're all about.
So let me click into one. Hopefully my volume's not cranked. We'll see how this goes. But I'm just going to click into one to give people an example of what these highlights look like. So as we kind of click through, you can see how you have added to your highlights all these different stories that you've posted in the past. And so
Yep.
people can click through and see under that particular collection what has gone under that particular topic. So that's pretty cool.
It's kind of like a best hits kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Because it would take people a long time potentially to scroll through your feed, but if there are key things like key posts that you really want to get across to them, you take those best hits and then you group them together under a named highlight.
Yeah. And then the next one I want to show is, I believe this is a carousel here. Let me click into
It
this.
is. Yep.
Yes. So this is what carousel means. I know when we think of carousel, we think of, the carousel horses and riding on a carousel. That's what comes to mind a lot of times. Carousels on Instagram, not the same thing. A carousel is where you click through a collection of images under the same post. So this is just one post here. And if I was on my mobile phone, I would just be swiping
Yep.
to the
Exactly.
left. Yep. And that's how I would see all of those images under the same collection there. So we could go into this for a long time, but I'm going to stop sharing now. I just want to know, what are your three favorite neighborhoods, as you call them? What do you like to use the most on Instagram, Kerri?
I love carousels. Loved carousels. I also love stories. Although I'm trying to be better at showing myself on stories because I've been bad at not showing my own face in video on stories, but I love doing stories because you can just be like way more creative, right? And do some fun things, and you can use music in them, and it's not just for sharing posts, but kind of documenting certain things during your day, and it's a great way to engage with your audience. And actually, it's a fantastic way, I should say, a fantastic way to engage with your audience because you can use the engagement stickers, right? You can put in polls. You can, post, say it was a picture of your horse out grazing and you put like a slider on it with a heart and people can slide to say how much they love that picture, and that's all engagement. Or maybe you want to ask a question to your audience, and so you have a yes or no poll kind of thing. So I love stories, and I really like reels. I'm trying to get better at showing up in reels because it's that whole me on video thing that kind of scares me a little bit. Although you don't have to show yourself on reels, I should say that. There's plenty of reels that you can do that don't have to have you in them. But I would say carousel, stories, and reels I really like.
I want to emphasize too for our viewers who aren't familiar with using stories and reels that you do not need to have video editing experience to be utilizing these tools. Instagram has a lot of built-in options for you to be able to add music, trim the video, and you don't need to be perfect in them either. So don't worry about having to over edit anything because number one, don't worry about perfection. Number two, Instagram's got a lot of really cool stuff built in for free. So you just don't need that experience. Um, but that said, is there any particular kind of post right now, Kerri, that you feel like Instagram's really favoring that people should definitely be looking at using more of?
Definitely reels. I mean, you hear a lot of people talking about reels, and there's a reason for that. It's because Instagram is favoring reels because number one, they are trying to compete with TikTok, but number two, they are recognizing that. I mean, put it this way: Instagram does what the people want, right? So they're tracking to see what people are interacting with, what they like, what they're consuming. And video is big. I mean, video, you probably noticed yourself, like video over the past couple of years is getting more and more popular as a form of content, right? And so Instagram they've actually come out and said that they are devoting their time right now to building out video better. And totally what you said, like you can do a lot of editing within the app. You don't have to have like a editing software on your computer or get another app to do video editing. You can do it all within the app, and they keep trying to make it easier and easier and more fun. So reels are definitely a big thing. And I would say content wise, generally is it's basically showing yourself more, because I think gone are the days where people want the whole, matchy, perfectly curated, looks gorgeous. That is important if that is sort of the basis of your business. Like if you're a photographer, yeah, definitely that's important. Or if you're an interior designer or somebody whose business is based on visual aesthetics, but you don't need to get so hung up on it. And it's always the kind of off the cuff and the more relatable, authentic content that really does well with people.
Absolutely. So Reels and Instagram Live, not the same thing, right? Reels are different than
No.
Instagram Live. So
Yeah.
what are the primary differences between the two? Because I think we need to break down even a little bit more for the people watching that don't understand these different options. What is a Reel as opposed to going live on Instagram?
So going live on Instagram, so that you would use that if you wanted to connect with your audience in terms of you want to do a how-to tutorial. Or for instance, I went live on Instagram last week and I just went live for about 11 minutes and I talked about hashtags. And I was just kind of giving sort of like a mini training almost on hashtags. Or maybe you want to, like we could have done this on an Instagram live, right? Which is like collaborating with someone and having a conversation about something like a hot topic, that's come up, or somebody who, you would like to expose to your audience because it meshes really well with what you're doing. Whereas a reel, think of a reel as, it's almost like, first of all, you're creating it specifically to live on the platform. Whereas an Instagram live, you could do a live, decide that you don't want to save it to your IGTV, and that's it. Like you go live and then it ends and that's it. The content doesn't exist anywhere. Whereas a reel, you're specifically creating it to live on your feed. And a reel it's part entertainment because you can do that's sort of an important factor, is that the reel is entertaining. And it's also another content form where you can show off your product or your service in a very kind of quick, I don't want to say commercial, but almost like a commercial, like, commercials are short and quick, right? So just kind of like a short consumption commercial type of way. I hope that kind of makes sense.
It does make sense. Yeah. All right. Well, I want to remind our viewers once again, if you have any questions for Kerri during our real time talk today, drop them in the comments. We will see it over here on StreamYard where we're broadcasting. So if you've got anything you want to ask, we do have a few more minutes. You can drop it in the comments and we'll see it over on our end. So let's move into another really important topic about Instagram, Kerri, and that is coming up with content. That tends to be one of the biggest struggles outside of understanding how Instagram works. The next biggest struggle that I think I hear from a lot of people is understanding what to post. How do you come up
Yeah,
with content? It's overwhelming. You don't want to feel like you have to post every day and then come up with
yeah.
a new post every day. So, what recommendations do you have for people that are in that boat?
Yeah, I mean, content is definitely a very, very common challenge for a lot of people. I mean, it used to be a challenge for me as well. And particularly having a strategy behind your content, because so one problem is I don't know what to post. And number two is, well, I don't want to just post anything, right? You want to have a strategy behind it. And you'll hear quite often about content pillars, or buckets, as I like to call them, and identifying your content pillars. And usually people will identify, 4 to 5, maybe 6 content pillars. And that sort of helps you come up with ideas on how to talk about your business without always being in sales mode, because nobody likes to be in sales mode all the time. And I find a common mistake that I see, particularly with businesses who sell physical products, is that their feed kind of looks like a catalog, right? And you don't necessarily want to have that catalog feel with your feed. And so content pillars can help you break out of that and help you come up with ideas. So what's a content pillar? So the ones that I like to use is educate. So that's where maybe I break down a common myth that I hear regularly, or I turn an FAQ into a post. Or it could be engaging. That could be a content pillar for you. Motivate. That's where you'll see like inspirational quotes either from other people, or maybe, something inspirational that you say to motivate other people. Connections, so posts that are serving to connect with your followers and build that community. And promotion, of course, because if you have an account for your business, you do want to actually sell, because that's the whole purpose of the account. So promotion would definitely be one of your pillars. And so coming up with those pillars can help you with your content.
Absolutely. That's something that I have done in my social media trainings as well, is emphasize the importance of never posting one type of content, or as you call them, one pillar. You don't want to do 100% promotional. You don't
Yeah.
want to do 100% educational or 100% funny. There's some accounts out there that post a lot of memes to their Instagram account, and you don't really know what they do because that's all they're posting. And so it
Mm-hmm.
becomes more of a meme account versus a business account that's, trying to build an audience around what it is that they actually offer. And you can probably ask followers of accounts like that, like, hey, what does this business do? They're not going to have any idea because it's one type of content. And same goes for if you're promoting 100% of the time. If you're only trying to sell, there's no
Yeah.
relationship. And that's
Yeah.
one thing that's really great about Instagram, is that there is opportunity to build really great relationships with your audience. But if you're selling to them 100% of the time, it's not going to work.
You'll turn people off, right? I mean, nobody
Yeah.
likes to be sold to all the time. So yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So you have a product actually that we want to look at today called the 180 content ideas that you have for Instagram. So we have that pulled up on
I
screen
do.
share. So I'm going to go ahead and add that to our stream real quick. And we're going to talk about that briefly before we move on, because this is a really cool product that you offer for equestrians that are struggling to come up with content ideas. I think this is just the best. It's great for people
Thank
who
you.
just they're
Thank you.
struggling to come up with content for their Instagram. So let's take a look at it. Tell us about your content calendar.
Sure. And actually, I came up with this idea and I used my stories to float it past my community because I wanted to create something that would really help them, right? And so I asked them, what would really help you? And I had a little quiz. So that's a way that you can use your stories to engage with your audience and get some feedback. And the overwhelming response came back with content. I struggle with content. I'm like, okay, I got you. So I came up with this content calendar. I'm just going to scroll through it right now. And I talked a bit about the content buckets that we just talked about, the different neighborhoods. And so I created this calendar so that every day there's a content idea that you can draw from, either by doing, exactly what the prompt is, or maybe it gives you a little bit of inspiration. You come up with your own twist. And that's what I put together. So I'm just going to scroll down here to give you an idea of what it looks like. So every day, and you'll see, let me just zoom in a bit. So I'll have like the pillars: educate, engage, promote. So educate, create a how-to that would be a benefit to your audience, a fun pic or video in your stories. Oh, that is because I also include the hashtag days. So that's for hashtag International Kissing Day, and how you can incorporate that in your content. So a fun pic in your stories of you giving your horse a kiss. So I put this together, and even though it's 180 days and you see a post for every day, does not mean you have to post every day. I just want to stress that again. You don't. You can be really successful on Instagram by posting just 3 times a week. So if you do only post 3 times a week, this 180 days of ideas, it's going to last you a lot longer. And I did it with a focus on the equestrian industry. So while some of the ideas could be applied no matter what industry that you're in, I made sure to incorporate some that had an equestrian twist to it, right? That'd be specific to the equestrian industry. And I should say that I also give you some tips on how to start your caption with a solid hook and how to include a call to action, what it is, and some examples that you could use in your own captions. The captions are the text that you put below your post. So there you have it. That's the content calendar, and the link is in my Instagram bio so that you can check it out. And it's only $27 for 180 days. That's a pretty swinging deal.
It is a pretty good deal. And that's 27 Canadian. So you're based in
27
Canada.
Canadian, yes.
Yes.
So for all my American friends, you fully take advantage of the exchange rate and get it for even cheaper than that.
Well, I think that's a great offer and super helpful for folks that are struggling to come up with content ideas and just need a little bit of help. It's a really good little hack for folks that just need that extra little push. So you can check that out on Kerri's Instagram account, which once again is at Equestrian Marketing Coach. We had a question come in, Kerri, that I want to address here quickly because, there's all different levels of Instagram. There's folks that are just getting started, and there's people who are probably more advanced on Instagram. But we have someone that was asking for us to just kind of talk to folks who are total beginners. This person says that they have a page that exists and by accident posted some pictures. And this person's just looking for some basic information about where to get started before they start tapping into like reels and videos and all that stuff.
Yeah. I think the best thing to do is, first off, look at your Instagram bio. So your Instagram bio is sort of the foundation for everything. So your Instagram bio is going to say who you serve, what you do. So make sure that you have that really well optimized. So if someone lands on your account, they know right away, yeah, this person is speaking to me and they offer something that could help me or that I could use to encourage them to follow you. I would also take a look at some of the bigger businesses or companies that are in your niche and see how they're doing things, because that will sort of give you some inspiration and give you some ideas on what type of content that you could be putting out. Take a look at how their bios are written. Take a look at the type of images that they're using. Take a look at what they're writing in their captions. More importantly, take a look at the comments in their captions too. Because if it's somebody who is similar to what you're doing, but on, say that they're on a bigger scale, they have a bigger following, they have a bigger budget, it will just really help give you some guidance as to what you should be doing. And I think the biggest thing too is don't get overwhelmed. Like I said, like don't think that you got to be going at it and you have to be posting every day and you have to be engaging every day. Just find what's comfortable for you. Actually, I highly recommend find one or two or three accounts that you can follow that you feel gives really solid advice. I mean, your account, for one, right? Talking to equestrian businesses, giving them ideas. My account or other accounts that you come across that they give some really good support or they give some really great tips. And that will just help start your learning curve.
I want to add to your account, which I'm going to add to the stream once more. We'll look at it. You have so much to offer on your account too, Kerri. So for someone that's just getting started, just go to Kerri's account, which is Equestrian Marketing Coach, and scroll through, find some tips that apply to your situation. Some of these might be a bit too advanced for you, but some of them are also very simple. So scroll through. I mean, I even love that you did this tip here, Kerri, on how to avoid blurry photos and videos. That's a huge deal. That's a huge thing, avoiding having blurry images and videos. Like blurry images will give the impression, at least in my opinion, that you don't know what you're doing. So at least make sure like your images are of good quality that you're sharing. And if they're coming up blurry on your phone, don't share them.
And also, I mean, not only in terms of, it doesn't show you off at your best, right? Or your business off at its best. Instagram will actually suppress it too, right? Because they want to make sure that there's good quality, like high quality photos and videos that are out there. And so it actually will stop the reach of your post as well. So that's kind of like another side reason as to why you want to make sure you have sharp videos. But yeah, for starting off as a beginner, don't worry about the highlights. Don't worry about, reels. Don't worry about video. Just get your bio together. Take a look at other people in your industry. Just like what you said, have good quality photos that you put up and make sure that what you are starting to build in your feed is representative of who you are and what your business is. Like I almost say, like, take a look at your feed almost like your shop window if you did have a bricks and mortar store, and your feed should sort of be representative of what people can expect if they were to open the door and walk inside.
Definitely. Well, we have another question in the chat that I think I can help answer too. So we can probably both tackle this one together. But this question asks about transferring videos between platforms. For example, can you bring Facebook Live over to Instagram and vice versa? Can you save to a YouTube channel? The person says they're trying to build their YouTube channel as well and doesn't want to have to record and edit a bunch of different videos. So I'll answer really quick on my part, and then I want to hear what you have to say about that, Kerri. But I will say for this video, for example, the one that we're doing right now, I'm streaming that through StreamYard. This platform did not allow me to take it over to Instagram. So even though I'm streaming to multiple places on Facebook, and I could technically stream to YouTube as well, it did not give me an option to share to Instagram. So I'm going to save the download for later. I've got the recording and I can upload that to different places after the fact. What would you recommend, Kerri?
Yeah, I mean, this question is actually awesome because it's all about repurposing content, right? So you create one piece of content and how can you make it go as far as it can go, because nobody has time to be shooting specifically for Instagram and shooting specifically for YouTube. So you can definitely, so with the example here, so you do Facebook Live over to Instagram. So I haven't really done a lot of Facebook Live, so I don't know whether you can save the video from a Facebook Live, but let's just assume that you can save the video somehow. You can definitely take a clip of that and put it up as an IGTV Live. Or maybe there's one small clip that would be perfect for a reel that you could, just add a little bit of background music to, which you can do within the app, within the Reel app. You just find like a trending song and turn down the volume a little bit. If your live, had talking in it, for YouTube, right? So you upload it to your YouTube channel, but you could do two things, right? You could do a longer form video for your YouTube channel, but you can also do a YouTube short. And YouTube Shorts are, think of them as sort of like the same as Reels or TikTok. I mean, basically YouTube is trying to compete. Everybody's trying to compete with TikTok. And you could just take, a 15-second clip, and that could be a YouTube short, because YouTube is really pushing out shorts right now. So I hear this person is trying to build a YouTube channel, have like a longer form as your YouTube video, and then take a really good clip from it, about 15 seconds, and do a YouTube short as well. So that's a way that you can just repurpose everything. I will say though, that make sure that if you are saving out, say you did an Instagram video and you save it out, Instagram will put the watermark on. So that is one thing just to pay attention of, is that if a watermark gets placed onto the video, there are apps out there that will remove the watermark. Because what happens is that, for instance, you have a reel that you downloaded from Instagram, and say you have a TikTok account and you want to post it up to TikTok, they'll carry that Instagram watermark. Well, TikTok will be less likely to push that out because they don't want to be advertising Instagram, right? And vice versa. So that's the only thing that I would pay attention. There are a lot of apps out there that just take it off for you, but definitely repurposing content is gold. That'll save you a lot of time.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that was a really good bit of info to know too, is that the watermark could potentially cause your video to be seen less. And I did actually hear that, I think, back when people were sharing a lot of TikTok videos to Instagram before Instagram came out with Reels.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's something to keep in mind. But all right, well, I want to address one more thing before we wrap up today. And I want to talk a little bit about profiles that look really fancy and pretty and well branded. For example, yours. Yours looks great. We'll bring it up one more time. Let me scroll back up to the top here, and then I'll put this back in the feed. So no account's going to start out looking like this. This takes a little bit of effort, but I want to talk to the fact that it doesn't need to look like this for people who are just starting out. This is stuff that you kind of figure out as you go. So
Yeah.
can you speak a little bit to like what things are most important when you're just getting started? Do people need to have these like highlight buttons and these fancy graphics and
No.
special colors and everything for their Instagram account? What do you
Um,
recommend?
well, what I would say is that if you scroll up to the top where you see my bio, like I said, the bio is really important. And so here I say exactly what I do and who I help. And so you want to make sure that you've got that within your bio. You'll also see too that the handle, in this case, Equestrian Marketing Coach, I worked in the name of my business, Equestrian Marketing Coach. Now the display name, which is IG Social Media Coach and Tips, both of those things are actually searchable within Instagram. It's the two things that are the only two areas that are searchable. So I always say to people, make sure that one of them has your business name, and typically it's the handle that people have with their business name in there. And you don't have to repeat that in your display name, and use the display name to incorporate other keywords. So say, for instance, you were a dressage coach, that I would want to make sure to fit in the words dressage and coach into that display name. So in that bio area, make sure that your bio is really well optimized. The highlights, which are the different circles that you see below, you don't have to worry about that so much right now if you're just starting out. So I wouldn't get too stressed out. I mean, there's plenty of even large accounts that don't have any highlights at all. So it's a nice to have, I guess I'll say. And as for your feed and how your feed looks, we already talked about, make sure your photos are high quality. So if you're taking them off your phone, that's fine, but make sure that, the lens of your phone is clean and it's not, all grimy, and that would affect the picture quality. If you have brand colors, it's really nice to pull them in somehow into some of your posts. So what you see here, the graphics here, these are all created in Canva. And canva.com is everybody's best friend as far as I'm concerned. And I've been a graphic designer for 20 some years, but yet I love canva.com because it is so freaking easy. And they have a free version too. And I'm not an affiliate, so It's not that I'm getting any kind of paid endorsement for this. It's just, it's so easy to use. And not only is it easy for you to come up with some nice branded templates with your colors and with your logo that you can reuse, but you'll see like a whole bunch of templates in there that will give you ideas on how you can put together some of your visuals, and it will save you a ton of time. So while you don't have to be, perfect matchy, I think it is good to have at least a bit of a consistent visual feel and pull in your brand colors if you can, and make sure there's not random stuff. So like you're a tack shop and there's a random picture of a cat. Like maybe you could make that work if the cat is the store cat and there's some story behind it, and that's like when it's under the connection pillar, you're tying that in. But that kind of like random content, that's perfect for stories, not so much for your feed. So your feed, you want it to, if someone was to scroll through it, they know right away, yeah, this is what they're about. This is what they sell. This is, the services they provide. This is the industry they service. What's this random picture of a burrito or a cat or something on there? So that's what I would say.
And I'm going to point out too, because you talked about brand colors. So when you're referring to brand colors, some examples here that I see in your feed. So you obviously use purple a lot, and you do all of your text in like this yellow/gold color. And then you also have a little bit of this like cyan color that's kind of thrown in here. So I'm seeing a lot of like yellow, white for the text. I'm seeing a lot of purple for background. So when you're referring to brand colors, if someone doesn't understand what that means, it's just that you have a consistent look for your brand that you use on a consistent basis. And like if you threw like some kind of I don't know, like green text or something in here, or green background, people would be like, what the heck? That's not Kerri's color, because they're used to seeing the color from you and that look for your brand.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's also, people can automatically like they can pick out your posts when it's popping up on their own feed, right? So when you first open up the app and it starts to populate with the people that you follow and their posts, and you can immediately pick out my post because of my brand, and my branding colors are really strong. But you're right, like people identify you with that look, whether it's a forest green shade or whatever it is that is.
I'll pull up mine too. And
Yeah,
I'm trying
perfect.
hard to like stay with this like tan color and the darker green. I have a brand kit that my guy who did the logo for me put together. And so those are some colors that I use consistently. My feed's not quite as pretty as yours. Yours is pretty awesome, but
yours is great.
I'm trying pretty hard to stay on brand with some of the colors here. And there's a few that aren't quite on point, but slowly but surely heading in the right direction here, I hope.
And what's great about your feed too, when you're scrolling through it, is that it's a lot of people's faces on there,
That's true.
It fits perfectly with what your business is all about, which is helping people.
Yeah.
So that's fantastic.
Definitely. All right. Well, we've had a great conversation today, Kerri. I'm going to remove that screen share from our feed. Do you have any final tips that you would like to share about Instagram and using it to build your audience?
I'm going to stress again about not getting overwhelmed. Figure out what the minimum is that you can commit to posting, and do that. If it's 3 times a week, great. If it's twice a week, great. Instagram has actually, they've come out and said they reward consistency over volume. So it's the consistency that matters. So figure out what that minimum is for you. I know this is easy to say, but don't get hung up on the numbers, because it's more important to build a community versus a massive following of people who don't really care that much about you, and they're just kind of staying around, but they're not engaging with you. I mean, you said that your count is over 500 right now?
Yeah, it looked like it was just 570 when we pulled it up.
Yeah, so I bet that's a really engaged community, right? I mean, my size is small in Instagram terms, but it's a really great community, and I've made a lot of great connections. and it's really supported my business. So don't get hung up on the numbers. And also find tools that will save you time. Find accounts that will save you time to follow, and find tools that will save you time. So we mentioned canva.com. I use Facebook Creator Studio to schedule some of my posts. So if I need to schedule some in advance, I do it there. It's free. I use #slayer.com to help me with my hashtag research because it saves a ton of time. So find some tools that will save you a lot of time. So those would be my key tips.
Well, we can't forget your Instagram growth calendar as well.
Oh, yes.
So
yeah,
we have to plug that one more time. Why don't
I'm
you tell
bad
folks
about promoting myself. So.
Tell folks where they can find your Instagram growth calendar if they're interested in purchasing it.
Great, thanks. So you just go to the link in my bio, and you'll see the image there with the growth calendar. You just click on that, and it'll take you to the checkout page. You can read more about it, what's included, and once you send your order, it'll get sent to you by email right away so that you can dive right into it. And I'm always available by DM if you have any questions. Just shoot me a DM.
Perfect. And once more, that account on Instagram is Equestrian Marketing Coach. So if you're going from your desktop browser, you're just going to type in instagram.com/equestrian marketing coach, or go to your app and go to the search bar and type Equestrian Marketing Coach in there. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Kerri. This talk,
thank you,
honestly,
Mandy.
like we talked a long time. We talked a lot about Instagram tips today. Like this is way longer than I was thinking it was going to be, but it was just so good. We had to keep going. So thank you so much to everyone who stuck it out with us today. I hope you guys learned some great tips about Instagram marketing for your equestrian business, and be sure to check Kerri out on Instagram. And I'm going to plug mine too really quick while we're here. If you aren't already following the Leadline, go follow us on Instagram at the Leadline Podcast. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Have a great day.